Good evening. Everybody all right? Great. How are you doing? Good?
I'm doing fine, man.
Good.
I'm very excited. Very excited to have you here. I'm very excited about your new record, too, which we'll just speak about briefly before you do a song for us. But one of the things that struck me is, the album is called Now. It has an intent to be immediate, to be of the moment, and it really brings that across. I was, the first time I put it on to play it, I was just, very, very taken with it, and that has remained. There's so much. There are very personal songs on it. There are very political songs on it. There are historic songs on it. You really covered the range, and it's as if, to me, you wanted to demonstrate the degree of kind of ongoing vitality, the sense that, you're still doing great stuff and really feeling it.
One of the things that I wanted to do was let people know that even at 81, you can still rock.
Very true. Well, you proved that, for sure.
Where do the years go? Yeah. Seriously, where do they go? I mean, the truth is that somebody told me that the first Crosby, Stills and Nash record came out 50 odd years ago, maybe 2 days ago. But it felt like yesterday to me. You try and tell kids, hey, take it easy, la 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 la. They have no idea how quickly time goes. It really does.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. I mean, I was reading an interview recently with Ron Wood, who, has had obviously his own career with the Faces, with Jeff Beck, with the Rolling Stones. He's in his, like 76, 77 now. He's had a couple of bouts of cancer. And he was saying, thinking about time, he goes, with everything that's really happened to me, he goes, I sometimes almost feel still almost like cheated, like there's still more to do, there's still more I want to do,
It's the same with me too.
Yeah, no, it's.
I mean, I have the album coming out, it came out on the 19th, but I'm halfway through the next record. I have my title, once I start with the title of something that I'm interested in, I'm halfway there, It's nice to have a title.
Oh no, that's something not only that I do myself, but I always tell my students, because I said, you turn this in, it doesn't even have a title. And I said, and they said, well, you can read it, it's not that long. And I just say, well, your title puts your reader in the place, when you have a good title, I start thinking, oh, okay, this is what this person's going to do. Like, you have me where you want me. Mm-hmm. So use that. I feel like that the title is important.
Titles are very important, absolutely. Unfortunately, with the first Crosby, Stills and Nash record, Henry Diltz, who is an unbelievably great, rock and roll photographer, was down at the session when we were finishing the record, and we realized that we needed a cover, So we went to Palm Street, I think it is, just off Melrose in Los Angeles. And we saw this funky old house with a funky couch in front, and it kind of felt almost like us, it was funky, and we wanted it. So we took pictures, right? Then you could take them into Kodak overnight, and you could get them back the next day. So that's what he did. We got them back the next day, and we had decided that day to call ourselves Crosby, Stills and Nash. David and I felt that was that rolled off the tongue better than Stills, Nash, Crosby, So we had decided that night what to call ourselves. But the picture that we loved that we had shot the previous day, we were in the wrong order. Right? So we say, okay, let's go back and reshoot it, in the right order. Great. So we went. There was no house. It had been destroyed. It was a pile of rubbish in the back of a lot. It had gone. That's why we're sitting in the wrong order on our cover.
I know on that cover too, you're sitting on top of the couch. You're like sort of poised on top and everybody else is sitting at the bottom.
Yes.
It's a nice...
I like to overlook things.
it's a nice feel. Well, Luke, would you like to play a song from the new record for us?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I have this friend. He's my oldest friend. I've known him since I was 6 years old. His name is Alan Clark. Alan Clark and I started the Hollies in, late 1962, right? He's that great voice behind He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother, and The Air That I Breathe, and Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress. And he lost his voice for about 20 years. But he called me about a year ago and he said, I found my voice again. I want to do a solo record. I said, fine, I'll help you with it. What do you need? He said, well, let me send you 2 songs. And if you like the songs, maybe put your voice on and great. He sent me the 2 songs. I liked them. I went over to my friend Todd Caldwell, who is going to be on piano with me. He has a studio in Brooklyn. I put my voice on, mixed them, sent them back to Alan. What does he do? He sends me 2 more songs. I'm now on 10 songs on his solo record. But one of the song I wrote a song for him for his album, which is actually on my album too, called Buddy's Back, and it's about the Hollies' love for Buddy Holly and how much we actually loved his music, And I wrote this song called Buddy's Back. Hey, Todd. This is my friend Todd Caldwell, everybody. So, Buddy's Back. Are you all right? One. It's a very simple song, okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I remember when we were young at heart, and all we wanted to learn was there in the stars. We heard their voices on the radio, and we copied the style, then we let it go. And in front of a mirror we would play, pretending to be them every day. And then we started a band just to have some fun, and we created a sound as we sang as one. Buddy Holly was who we loved, right from the heart. His music is still around, believe me. Buddy's back. Buddy Holly was who we loved, right from the heart. His music is still around, believe me. Buddy's back. And after all of those years went by so fast, we brought him with us from the past. And if you listen today to our old soundtrack, better believe me, Buddy's back. Buddy's back. Buddy's back. Buddy's back. Thank you. So anyway, the last apartment that Buddy Holly ever lived in was on Fifth Avenue at, I think, like 5th Street or something. It's called the
Fifth Avenue, and just below 8th Street.
Yeah, the Brevard.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, that was his last apartment, and you realize that he walked out of that door, got into a cab to go on his tour, and never came back. And you know something? Buddy Holly only recorded for 15 months. All that music made in 15 months. Unbelievable.
He died when he was 22.
22. Yikes. Whew. Anyway, that was Buddy's back. On my album, I sing the lead, and Alan joins me on the choruses. And on Alan's album, he sings the lead, and I join him on the choruses. So we got a good use out of that song.
You know, as I just mentioned, you know, I loved the Hollies when I was a kid. I mean, I remember, you know, Look Through Any Window was the first Hollies song I heard. And there were just so many that followed. But I always loved, having grown up in New York, I always loved, you know, when I read about, you know, you were obviously part of the British invasion, and every single British band that came over always had stories about the first time they came to New York, you know, where they went and what they did. And when I read your memoir, Wild Tales, which, by the way, if you're interested in the career of Graham Nash, I would strongly recommend it. It's a very good read and honest, which is something to be recommended. But in any event, I was always so taken. Now that you're living in New York again, I wonder, like, if you would mind sharing some of the stories of, like, your first visits to New York and what they were like, and your visits, for example, to Tad's Steakhouse.
We came, I think it was Easter in 1965. Morris Levy, who owned Roulette Records, invited the Hollies to come and play a show at the Paramount Theater in Times Square. We arrived in New York at JFK, of course, and we got into what must have been the largest cab I ever saw in my life. It had like 4 or 5 doors on each side. It was like, what the hell is this? We were a little late. We got to sound check at the Paramount, and the stage manager said, "Are you hungry?" I said, "Yeah, we just came from the airport. We didn't have time to eat, but there's no time to go out." He said, "No, what do you need?" I said, "Well, I'd like a cheeseburger." Fine. 5 minutes later, a cheeseburger arrives, and I'm going, this is an incredible country. This is insane, you know, because in England it was just wimpy burgers. And, you know, I'm not kidding. Anyway, so we got to the Paramount and we did a sound check, and then we went walking. And the first thing I remember was that smoke coming out of a giant camel ad, you know?
Yeah, in Times Square.
And then we went to Tad's Steakhouse, a full dinner for like $1.98. I mean, come on, it was insane. We couldn't believe this country. I fell in love with New York that moment, and I never really want you to go back to England because, you know, this was a brand new country, and you know, once you're a band and you kind of conquer your little local area, Manchester and Salford in my case, and then you want to conquer London, and then what do? You want to go to New York and go to America, and that's what we did. But my impression of early New York was really buried deep into my mind. It was a fantastic place, and quite frankly, I've been here think 9 years now, and I wish I'd come here 20 years ago.
Wow. You know, you left the Hollies. The Hollies were still going very strong, and that was not necessarily a decision that went over well with the other Hollies.
No.
But you had a sense of your own kind of next musical step. You know, obviously things were changing in the late 60s, musically and culturally, socially and politically. You know, can you talk about, you know, meeting, you know, Stephen Stills and David Crosby and, you know, having that all come together for you?
Sure. The Hollies were being thrown a party by our record company. I believe it was Imperial Records then. And after the party, we were standing around, and this 15-year-old kid came up to us, and he knew everything about the Hollies. He knew every A side, he knew every B side. He knew that we'd done a Shell ad, you know, in '62. I mean, this kid knew everything we'd ever done. Obviously a staunch Hollies fan. And then he said to me, "What are you doing right now?" I said, "What are you doing right now?" He said, "Well, I have these friends and they're recording down the street. I thought you might want to go to the session." So I said, "Okay, it sounds interesting. Who are your friends?" And he said, "They're called the Mamas and the Papas. And they're going to be really big." So I went to the session. Michelle and Denny and John were in the studio putting on a vocal track. So I couldn't go in there, the red light was on. But Cass was not there, so I could talk to her. And she said to me, "What do you think John Lennon would think of our music?" And I said, "Well, you know, I don't know. I mean, I know John, but I don't know him that well. But he would probably kind of put you down until he trusted you enough to let you into his space." And I look up, and Cassie's crying. Now, I'm English, and I want to be a gentleman. Like, you know, all of a sudden, I'm talking to this lady, and she's crying. So I had to sort that out, you know. And then she said to me, "So what are you doing after this?" Americans. I said, "I don't know. Why?" She said, "Well, tomorrow I'll come and pick you up. I want you to meet somebody." So we were staying, I think, at the Knickerbocker Hotel in Los Angeles. And she came and picked me up in this convertible Porsche. And she, I don't know whether you know it, but Laurel Canyon is only 10 or 15 minutes from Hollywood if the traffic's okay. So she drove me up to Laurel Canyon, and we came to this house that was on stilts, which was weird, you know. I go upstairs to this room. There's no furniture in it except an incredibly great sound system and a couch. And on the couch was this guy in a blue and white striped t-shirt and blue jeans, no socks, right? And he's lying down on the couch, and he says hello, and he says hello to Cass. And I noticed that on his chest is a shoebox lid full of grass. And he was, without taking his eyes from mine, he was slowly shaking and separating the stems from the twigs from the grass, right? And he rolled the most unbelievably perfect joint without even breaking my eye contact. He stood just doing it completely automatically, you know. And that was David Crosby.
Hello.
A little later, David and I had become friends, and he said, "Let's go up to this party at my friend's house." I said, "Oh yeah, who's that?" He goes, "It's Peter Tork from the Monkees." He had a house on Mulholland. I said, "Sure, let's go to a party," right? You know, great. So we go up, and knock on the door, and door opens, and this incredible cloud of smoke comes out. And there's this kid playing piano, I mean, with an incredible groove. I mean, the kid was really great. I said, wow, listen to this kid. He said, yeah, that's who I want to introduce you to. His name is Stephen Stills. So, a few months later, I'm in London. I did the last show that I ever did with the Hollies was a benefit at the London Palladium, and Crosby was there, and I left the Hollies. I mean, I had to, because in Joni's living room, like I said, I was in London. I flew to Los Angeles to spend some time with Joni. I get to the parking lot. There's other voices there. I'm not crazy about other people being there. I just wanted to spend some time with John. But it was David and Stephen. They were having dinner with Joni. And so I went in there, you know, and obviously we smoked a big one. And David said to Stephen, hey, play Willie, that song we were just doing. Now, David had been thrown out the Birds, and the Buffalo Springfield had broken up. And Stephen and David were trying to get a duo kind of thing together, like the Everly Brothers kind of thing, you know. And so they'd been rehearsing this song called You Don't Have to Cry, which was on the first CSN record. So they sang it. They came to the end of it. I said, holy shit, that's an incredibly great song, Stephen. That's really beautiful. Never heard anything quite like that. That's fantastic. Do me a favor, sing it again. So they looked at each other and they sang it again. They got to the end of it and I said, all right, we don't know each other really well here, but sing it one more time for me. And in the 2 times that they had sung it before, I had learned the words. I learned the body language of David Crosby. I learned when Stephen was going to start a phrase and when he was going to hold a note long and end the phrase. I learned all that in the first 2, because I'm a harmony singer and I'm pretty decent at it. So on this 3rd time, that sound that Crosby, Stills, and Nash was born in 45 seconds. We didn't rehearse for months. It happened immediately. So much so that I knew that I would have to go back to England and leave the Hollies and leave all my equipment and come to America and follow that sound, and that's what I did. I'm a musician. You can't make a sound like that and not expect me to want more of it. And that's what happened. And Joni was the only witness to the birth of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. But it happened in less than a minute.
You know, obviously you all, along with Neil, on and off, went on an amazing ride. And, you know, sadly, you know, not very long ago, you know, David Crosby died. You know, David was somebody that you in particular were very close to, and if I may say so, were very instrumental in helping to save his life at one point, or at least one point. And, you know, but you also had fallings out, you know, David famously, for all of his intelligence and charm and talent, was famously a very difficult person to get along with, would just almost seem to go out of his way to alienate people who were close to him. And you guys had fallen out and were maybe in the process of possibly getting back together, you know, reconnecting somewhat, and then, you know, he died. And I know this can't be easy, but you know, I wonder if you could talk about David from this standpoint and what that felt like to hear that news.
The truth is that, and even David would laugh at this, you know, we expected Crosby to die 20 years ago. You know,
Right.
I mean, seriously, he had incredible drug problems and problems with his body. I mean, I think when he died, he had 7 stents in, you know. I've said this before, but it was kind of like an earthquake when you feel that initial shock, you know, and you have to deal with that. And then, obviously, every time I saw his face on social media, I will miss him every day for the rest of my life. He was an incredible musician. He was an incredible person. I choose, and it's a choice, I choose to only try to remember the good times that we had and the music that we made that was pretty decent. It must be incredibly sad for his wife Jan and his son Django and his friends. And eventually, I'm not quite sure when, there will be a memorial for David, you know, with a bunch of his friends. And we're trying to put that together right now, as a matter of fact. But I will miss him every day. And I think about him every day. He was an incredible person. And the more that I think about him, the more I really realize how special he really was, musically. Incredibly special. I mean, I've never heard anybody play chords like that. I've never heard anybody tune a guitar like that. You know, maybe John did so. But yeah, David's death was insanely sad for me. And I know I have to deal with it, and I know I have to talk about it because, you know, everybody wants to know how I feel about David dying, but, you know, I will miss him every day.
Was there, I mean, not that you could, you know, psychoanalyze him, but I remember one time you guys came up to Rolling Stone for like an editorial lunch, and I happened to be sitting next to David. And I don't think I even discussed it with the group, but I think, you know, people were talking to, you know, whoever was sitting next to them. And I asked David, I said, you know, obviously, you know, Crosby, Stills and Nash is huge and everything. I said, you know, but you were in the Byrds. Like, why don't the Byrds get back together? And he just said, you know, I would love to do that. McGuinn has no interest in playing with me. You know, just, you know, the other main person in the Byrds, you just cut David off, you know, completely. I wonder, is there anything, what was the quality about him that brought things to that point? Do you have a take?
He had no control over his mouth.
It's pretty simple.
It's true. It's true. David would just tell you exactly how he was feeling, and in most cases, he wasn't feeling that great. You know. Yeah. But he really was the heartbeat of CSNY. And I realized that when I spent 4 years making that 4 CD box set of our stadium tour from 1973, 74. And in dealing with all that sound and you know, putting that together, I realized how great Crosby was as a rhythm guitar player. You know, it's simple, but very difficult to be a rhythm guitar player because you better be on the same page as the drummer and the bass player, you know, to keep that groove going. But Crosby was great at it.
You know, let's go back to, you know, your new album. And, you know, we talked about the kind of personal quality that it has. And, you know, an important part of that personal quality are the love songs on it, you know. And I wonder, you know, obviously, you know, you part of the reason why you're living in New York is, you know, I don't know, you're certainly living with someone, and, you know, I don't know if you're married, but...
I'm married.
Oh, you are. So
yes.
There we are. And, you know, could you talk about like writing these songs? You know, I assume some of them are about Amy.
Yes, they're all my love songs are about Amy. And I find myself very often right in between either being completely in love I'm being completely pissed off. And I find myself in the middle there somewhere all the time. But every song on the record is a love song. And shall I do one now?
Yeah, I would love that.
Todd? This is a love song about an argument. It's called Love of Mine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Love of mine, I didn't mean to hurt your heart so badly. I didn't mean to make your soul so sad about me and you. Love of mine, regretting every word I said to you. I can't take them back, but I wanted to, for me and you. How can I help your heart that clearly wants to heal? Can I ever make it right? To tell the truth, I know exactly how I feel. I don't want to be losing you tonight. How can I help your heart that clearly wants to heal? Can I ever make it right? To tell the truth, I know exactly how I feel. I don't want to be losing you tonight. Love of mine, I can't believe I might be losing you, but I'll thank the universe for choosing you and me. Okay.
Well, one of the other personal aspects of the album are, a couple of political songs that are on the album, which has been a characteristic of you. You know, you're someone, for having lived in the United States for many years and often spoken about your great love for the country. Often also, talked about, issues that are plaguing our country. And let's go back a bit. You've been doing this a long time. I wonder if you thought it was conceivable that, we'd be sitting here in 2023 facing the kind of issues that we're facing now, which, you don't want to get pessimistic, but it in many ways seems worse than it ever was. I wonder if what your perception of what things are.
Well, we thought Nixon was bad. But the 4 years of Trump have been insane. And his destruction of the truth is what Stars and Stripes is about from the record. There are no alternative facts. There's a truth. There's what happened, exactly what happened. But his destruction of the truth and his underlying all the great parts of America, the FBI, the Department of Justice, he's undermining everything, But I do believe that he will be indicted for the Mar-a-Lago documents, and I think he faces jail, and that's not even talking about Georgia, what he did there. I mean, when you're on tape saying, "Find me 11,000 votes," come on, he's history. But do you know that he could still run for president if he was in jail? Yeah. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, that would be weird, right? And what's coming up behind him? Who is DeSantis? Holy shit! Come on. The things that he's doing for Georgia, you know what he said today? In Florida. You know what he said today? There are no books being banned in Florida. It's like Trump. He's telling complete lies, and if he tells it enough, you will believe it. And that's what happens. And the political, I've seen the rise of the right wing and autocrats throughout the world, and it's very disturbing because they want to destroy democracy. They don't want you to have an opinion. They just want you to lie down and be sheep and just shut up while we rob you. And it's going on throughout the world, and it's very disturbing. And you have to add to that climate change. I've been here in New York for 9 years. And I remember at least 1.5 feet of snow. It was unbelievable. And you know what, this year? Anybody see any snow this year? Maybe 5 minutes and it never stuck, right? Remember?
And the Aspen.
Huh? Insane. And it's, I read in the Times that New York is sinking. It's sinking 1/8 of a year, 1/8 of an inch every year. At the same time, the ocean has risen 9 inches in the last 10 years. And there will be a time when the oceans will take over all the coastlines. Miami, all the Indonesian islands. It's insane. But it's hard to tell 7 billion people what's going on, because they all have their own story and they all have their own history and their own lives, It's very difficult, but it is one of our deepest and most profound problems. Because you know what? A lot of people say, let's do a benefit, let's save the planet. Let's do it great. But you know what? The planet doesn't give a shit about any of us. If we all died right now, this planet would keep on spinning, and in 1 million years, another life form would change. We don't want to save the planet. If your truth is told, we're only interested in saving ourselves. That's what's going on here. And it's a very, very difficult problem to deal with.
Yeah, talking about, the whole issue with, sea levels, and I remember thinking about that and thinking, God, that's a terrible thing. God, poor people who live on islands, and then I was just thinking, oh, I live on an island.
Yeah.
You know, it's stunning.
And it happened in 10 years. This thing with the snow and a foot and a half of snow and nothing, that's a 10-year span. That's nothing. It's a blink of an eye, right? 1,000,000 years is a blink of an eye in the life of a planet. Where's it going to be in 50 years? I mean, you know, you see people watching their phones and falling into fountains. You know, you know, you've seen all those little things that people do with screens. There's a book out by a man whose name I can't remember right now, but it's called Glow Kids, and it's what those little tiny screens are doing to our children's brains. Fascinating book, Glow Kids. Check it out.
You know, Graham, you're talking about before, you know, obviously talking about your recent album, and before we came out here, you were talking about like how much, you know, you're out there playing these days. You know, can you talk about just, you know, what that feels like at this stage of the game for you? You know, like what, you know, what it means, what it feels like, how it's changed. You know, what is that experience like? I'm doing, you know, this year I'm doing 4 tours. I just finished one a week or so ago at the City Winery here in New York. I'm about to start another tour on the West Coast on the 17th of this month. And then I go to Europe. And then I come back to America and do another short tour. And it's why I'm a musician. I have something to say. I have these songs I want to play for people. So I want my audience to know 2 things. One, I want to be there to make music for them. I don't want to phone it in. I don't want to do it half-assed. I want to make sure that every single person that paid money to come see me knows that I want to be there for them. And I want to sing my songs with the same passion I had when I wrote them. And I've said that before, but it's really true. I'm a musician. I want to play for people. That's what I do, you know? Yeah, I'm in my 80s. I understand that. I understand that I'm coming to the end of my life. I feel very healthy. I feel very active. I feel very passionate about music still. I'm still writing. As I told you earlier, I'm halfway through another record right now with Todd. And Todd co-produced this new record with me. But you know what? As much as I think about my history and how much I've actually been in very special places in the history of rock and roll, it feels like another world to me. I still feel like I'm 25 years old inside. It's only when I look in the fucking mirror that yeah. But I love to play for people. I love to see people smiling. I've been playing, you know, slightly smaller places, but I can see their eyes. You know, I can see if they're into it. You know, and they are. You know, one of the things, you know, over the course of your career, you know, there've been, you know, so many high points. I mean, obviously, you know, periods of difficulty too. But I wonder if you could talk about, you know, when you reflect back, you know, if there are particular moments, you know, that seemed especially meaningful for you.
Yeah, I can think of one particular one right now. David was in jail in, hello.
Oh, these are the audience questions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
David was in jail. I was on the road. I was on tour. We were playing very close, and I went and I got him out of jail. And we do this song that we had done together called Critical Mass and Wind on the Water. And I would do Wind on the Water, of course, but this particular night, I said, you know, I'm going to play Critical Mass, which is an instrumental piece, a vocal piece that David written. As soon as we go to the F sharp, you know, right, to start the song of Wind on the Water for the whales, just walk out. Nobody knows you're here. They think you're still in jail. Right? And the moment that they recognized, he almost has a profile kind of like Alfred Hitchcock, you know. It's like, and the crowd went crazy. And that was a particularly great moment for me because David was back.
Wow. Do you, have you, I mean, I'm sure you do, but what is the nature of your kind of connection at the moment with, you know, Stephen Stills or Neil Young for that matter? Are you guys in touch? Do you?
Oh yeah, you know, after David passed, obviously Stephen and I and Neil had to talk and stuff, and we did personally. And then of course, Stephen and Neil did that Light Up the Blues show about a month ago in Los Angeles, and I was supposed to be there, but I was actually on the road, so I had to prepare a video, a 10-minute thing for they were going to do a David Has Passed bit in their show, and sooner or later there's going to be a memorial for David, and we can't really have one without me.
Yeah.
So we have to wait until I'm done touring. But there will be a great memorial for him. There's a lot of his friends cared deeply about him. And once again, it's that choice, you know. I only choose to remember the good stuff because the bad part of David Crosby is awful.
Wow. Well, this is, you know, a question that touches on some of the things that we've been talking about, but I will ask it since someone wrote it out here. Which of your musical group's partners had the greatest impact on your personal life?
Without doubt, Crosby. From the first day that I ever met him, he changed my life in an incredibly good, positive way. So I would say David Crosby.
This is a question, once again, about leaving the Hollies and starting CSN. Did you feel trepidation about leaving the Hollies and becoming an expat in the U.S.? What were your prospects at that time?
When I decided that I would have to leave the Hollies because I had heard me and David and Stephen sing, and I knew what I had to do. I had to go back and undo my life and come back and follow that sound as a musician. I did feel sad for leaving Alan Clark behind. He was my oldest friend, as I said. I've known him since I was 6. So what is that, 75 years, you know? And I did feel bad that I had left Alan behind. And that's why, you know, I was so happy to be able to sing on his record and, in a way, pay him back. And but I did feel bad, only for leaving Alan. I didn't feel bad about leaving the Hollies because I knew what I was going into. I knew that what me and David and Stephen had created on that night in Joni's living room, I didn't know it was going to last for almost 60 years, but
or that it would get as huge as it became.
But we knew we would be huge.
You did?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, look at the songs we had, and look at the sound that we had created vocally. We knew it was going to be. We didn't care that it was the time of the, you know, Led Zeppelin, giant guitars, Jimi Hendrix, and, you know, giant things and speaker. No, it was this little tiny little kind of acoustic album, and we knew that it was going to go and be very popular. We knew. So wow. I knew. I had no question. There was no question in my mind that I wanted to do that sound for as long as we could, and it's been a few years now.
You know, one of the things Also, you had been trying to do some more kind of, experimental or, just kind of broader reaching things.
With the
I mean,
Hollies?
look, yeah, I love those early Hollies songs now. I mean, I just taught a class on the Beatles at Penn where I teach, and my students were asking me, well, what are your favorite songs? And I just said, the older I get, the more I go back to the very early stuff. I think I remember hearing an interview with you about the first time maybe that you heard, the one with the harmonica on the radio the first time. That the kind of impact that those early Beatles songs had, like even though they're quote unquote simple songs, there still is such a kind of energy, and I still feel that about like the early Holly stuff. Anyway, a long digression. But, by the end of the 60s, people were trying new things, and you wanted to try new things. King Midas in Reverse, for example, was, something that you were
That was the
attempting.
one that really, I knew that my time with the Hollies was up before I'd even sung with David and Stephen. Because of that particular song, I had written that in Split, in what was Yugoslavia. We made a decent record of it. It was kind of psychedelic. But what happened is that normally a single from the Hollies would go into the top 10. And when I was with them, we must have had, I don't know, a dozen top 10 records, right? Those early days were really far out. And let me tell you a quick story here. We'd had a couple of records out, and they were kind of hits, and so we were getting well known. And we had a manager called Michael Cohen.
That's very funny.
He said, do me a favor, you have to help me out here. I said, Michael, what do you need? He said, well, this neighbor of mine, she keeps bothering me. She says she has a son and he writes songs, and would I, I said, so you want us to go down and pat him on the head? He goes, yeah, just get her off my back. Do you mind? So we went to this house. He was Jewish. The plastic was still on the couch. So we said, we're the Hollies, so what have you got, kid? So he goes, well, I have this song. It goes like this. Bus stop where day she's there. Can we have that song? Yeah, you can have that song. Great. So we get up to leave, and I think it was Alan turned around and said, "Wait a second. What else have we got?" He said, "Well, I got this song that goes like this. Look through any window, yeah. What? Can we have that song?" Yep, you can have that song. All right, last time, what else do you have? He said, well, I wrote a song this morning, but you can't have it. I just gave it to my friend Peter Noon, who is Herman's Hermits, and it was No Milk Today. Right?
Oh, man.
This little 15-year-old kid, I mean, and I often think, what would have happened had we said to Michael Cohen, nah, we don't want to go down and there see a kid. What would have happened had we not had Bus Stop and looked through any window, I mean, life is incredible, and it's choices. Do you go left? Do you go right? Do you talk to him or do you talk to her? It's all, everything that we have ever done has been a choice that you made. We must make the right choices. So that's how we got Bus Stop.
That is a great story.
True.
I love those songs. Go on. Okay, here's another question from the audience. What, if any, geographic or natural location was most inspiring for your music?
There are 3 places: Carnegie Hall, the Royal Albert Hall in London, and a place in Colorado called Red Rocks. If you haven't never seen Red Rocks, it's exactly what you think. Gigantic red boulders, but I'm talking 300 feet high on either side of the stage, right? It's an incredible place. Everything echoes and goes in, you know, it's on Red Rocks. I think that Red Rocks is my favorite place to play.
Wow, great. Let's see. Someone drew a portrait here. There we go. How frequent were the comparisons of CSN to the band? Crosby, Stills, Nash, Helm, Manuel, and Danko.
We played with the band a lot. Personally, I think the band are the best American band has ever been.
Wow.
Yeah. Levon and, man, we used to watch them. They, you know, we did on that 73 stadium tour, very often they were part of the act there. And so the band are absolutely incredible. And I've actually rented that house, Big Pink, you know. I've been in that basement. I've made music in that basement where they made all the basement tapes. And to imagine, you know, Dylan and the band in that space, as a musician, I can eat that, you know. There's a vibe in that room that is unbelievable. Yeah, the band. I don't think there's any comparison between us and the band. Totally different music, equally good.
Well, here's somebody taking a big swing.
Uh-oh.
And Graham, what gives you hope for the future?
Well, I hope that we deal with climate change. I hope that we begin to educate our children in the right way. We seem to not care about the education of our children nowadays. I don't know why that is, but it's true, you know.
Seem perfectly willing to have them be shot up.
That's another insane problem that we have here. You know, a country like China, you know, is like an India, is thousands of years old, right? We're only 270 odd years old. We're still a baby. We're still growing. I've seen empires rise and fall, and I've read the history of, you know, Afghanistan, and, you know, if Genghis Khan can't conquer it, and if the Russian Empire can't conquer it, and if the British Empire can't conquer it, I think the American Empire is spiraling down. I think it's crumbling. I certainly don't think that Trump is helping at all. We're going down here. But, you know, we have every kind of humanity here. We have Jeffrey Dahmer, who kills people and eats them, and we've got people going to Mars. And humanity is always moving. And for the future, personally, I hope I live a little longer. I hope to be writing music until they put me in my coffin. And I want to just be a musician and create until I'm dead.
Well, Graham, I wonder, will you be up for doing another song for us?
Sure. Todd? Shall we do teach? Yeah. You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, 'cause their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, 'cause the one they pick is the one you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you, yeah. And you of tender years, you can't know the fears that your elders grew by, and so please help them with your youth, 'cause they seek the truth before they can die. Teach your parents well, 'cause their children's hell will slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams. The one they pick is the one you'll know by. Help me out here, come on. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you, yes they do. Thank you, Todd. Todd Caldwell, everybody.
Thank you all for coming, and thanks to Graham Nash. Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.